What started out as a WhatsApp group of friends spawned into a forum for debating and rating the films they saw. Then, one of them had an idea. Instead of typing their opinions, why not record them on a podcast? No Trailer Productions proudly presents Those Movie Review Guys. This podcast may contain spoilers.
You talking to me?
I will find you and I will kill you.
To infinity and beyond.
I am your father.
Bond. James Bond.
Here's Johnny.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
First rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
Hasta la vista, baby.
And here we go.
Hello and welcome to the show. We are Those Movie Review Guys, 4 guys from London who love to watch, discuss and review movies. On every show we will look at a selection of titles, give our thoughts and feelings towards each one and then conclude each review with a coveted hashtag TMRG star rating. As always, I'm joined by the fabulous
Giles,
Omari,
Kyle.
In today's show, we will be reviewing Don't Worry Darling and The Woman King. But before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We're on all major streaming platforms under Those Movie Review Guys. Give us a follow across all social media at TMRG Podcast as well. So guys, how you been? What's everyone been up to?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the half term, which is about to start. I just noticed something, and I don't know whether we've covered this before, but you say you're as always you're joined by, but you never say your name.
Don't expose my international man of mystery. Nobody knows who I am. I like to be mysterious and dark. Aura, please.
You're actually moving like the Stig from from Top Gear.
I'm here, but I'm not here.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
there,
yeah,
but I'm not
yeah,
there.
yeah.
You can hear me, but you can't hear me. No, Overwatch. Just call me Overwatch.
Overwatch, but yeah.
Wait, what's Overwatch? I remember Overwatch. What's that from?
It was a game, wasn't it?
Oh, it's a game. I don't know. I was thinking about something deadly.
But it's also a call sign. It's a call sign.
What's the call sign for? Wait, we're going to bomb somewhere. Overwatch.
Yeah, like a military. It's
Oh, do you know what it makes me think of?
Mile 22.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Yes,
Mile
that's
22.
it. There's a film.
I still haven't watched that.
Oh, you're an idiot. We're still here. We're still here.
Right, that's it. Recording done. Carl's got to go and watch Mile 22.
I've been making my handmade posters to be Prime Minister because the job is vacant again. So we can go again, you know? Don't even need social media. All I need is a pen, a paper, and a bit of a microphone. That's all I need.
What's your number one policy?
To tell the truth that the sky is blue. That's my number one policy.
Well, I think that's more truth than we've been getting for a while.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what you need. Some simple, factual truth.
We can have some fun with this. Giles, what's your policy if you are to be elected? So you're going to run for Prime Minister. What's the number one thing you're going to ensure that the British population can believe in, stand by in, and you will deliver wholeheartedly?
3-day week.
Oh, interesting. So that's the economy done then.
Yeah. Well, no more than it currently is. But anyway, a 5-day week is definitely not working. Can't be any worse. No, because if you think about it, there's 7 days in a week, and you're conned into working 5 of them to get 48 hours off. And it's not even really 48 hours because by Sunday midday, you've got half an eye on the Monday. Like it's preposterous. God, I'm even sounding like a politician already. But yeah, it'd be at least about 3.5 day week. Work-life balance, all of that sort of stuff.
Kyle, what say you?
I was going to say the 4-day week, actually, because there's a trial. There's been a worldwide trial going on about this 4-day week. It's been going on for about 3-4 months.
Yeah.
Where it's basically more so on the production line. But if the workers can achieve their same amount of units that they're doing within 4 days that they normally do over 5 days, that's how they're running it. And I think it's almost coming to the end and it's been successful. So I was going to say the 4-day week as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'd win though, Carl, because free day working. It sounds much more attractive than 4 days working.
It's the slave driver in Kyle coming out there.
What about you, Elliot?
So it's a tough one, but I think I'd have to think of something that would appeal to all classes, you know, every creed, every color, every sexuality, all, you know, involving everybody, uniformity, equality. Everybody on Monday morning gets a free pack of Tangfastics. Can't go wrong, mate. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. I know there's going to be a lot of Star Mix lovers. They're going to have to cross over to the orange side, I'm afraid. Yeah, I think that's what I'd go with. But all jokes aside, I think I like the whole 3-4 day week thing. But I think I would do something to help empower the youth. So maybe bring back youth clubs, but give it a bit of a modern day twist, 2020 twist. Make more places accessible for younger people to help inspire and educate and enrich.
Tactics is a good idea. That's cute. But when you say creed, do you mean creed in terms of doing a creed like being a Michael B. Jordan and releasing the third in your trilogy of a film that we don't need? Or do you mean the creed of a race? Just to clarify, because I heard creed and I was like...
To be honest, I'll be very honest. It reminded me of that hymn that we all used to sing, and I thought it just sounded good in my sort of political introduction. You know the hymn I'm talking about, innit?
No.
Every creed, every colour in the name, don't matter was you. You don't remember that song?
That sounds like a very...
What school did you go to?
That's
churchy.
my Sunday school.
Sunday school
Sunday
vibe.
school vibes.
If you think I remember anything from Sunday school, you are wrongly, and I'm sorry that you're so mistaken. But, you know, the people who do, I respect it, but I don't remember anything from Sunday school.
Giles, what say you?
I like your manifesto in terms of bringing back youth clubs. However, what a lot of people don't realise, youth clubs never went anywhere. They're still there. They're just called schools. And they're open. they're open. No. Hear me out. They're open, you know, most of the year. They open around about 8:00 to about 5, you know, Monday to Friday. Yeah, youth clubs haven't gone anywhere. And Amari, you also forgot another creed, the overpriced aftershave that some nitty always seems to have on the train and try to sell people. But yeah. Anyway, enough of my silliness. Sorry.
I didn't know there was another one.
Well, I think the conclusion to this is, out of 4 of us, we elect one person to be the face, and the other 3 will be the party, because I know that will definitely do well in the House of Commons. However, moving swiftly on, let's go into today's first film. Don't Worry Darling, released on the 23rd of September 2022, directed by Olivia Wilde. We had Florence Pugh as Alice, Harry Styles as Jack, Chris Pine as Frank, and Olivia Wilde as Bunny. A 1950s housewife living with her husband in a utopian experimental community begins to worry that his glamorous company could be hiding disturbing secrets.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Hey!
Giles, were you entertained?
Yes.
Amari, were you entertained?
Yes.
And Kyle, were you entertained?
No.
Oh, I was hoping we'd get the full house. I was entertained, so I guess, guys, it makes sense if Kyle.
Well, you can start with a positive.
No, we're going to flip it on its head. Carl, you're going first.
Let's start with the obvious. Harry Styles should not act again.
Okay, I don't agree. Just
how is a man going to go from such a nice, positive, laughing, joking mood, and his opening statement on the film review is Harry Styles should not act again? Wow, that's a big statement to start with. Giles, what are you saying?
I agree with him.
All right, so let's have the discussion. Let's have this brief discussion. Amari, how do you feel about this?
Harry Styles was obviously not in the echelons of the other actors. However, he wasn't a negative in the same conversation for me.
I agree with you there. I think for me personally, the role that he played, like, I think Olivia Wilde was very smart with this. I mean, I don't know why exactly he was casted, but I feel like He was very. Well, actually, no, I do know. Now that you're jumping up and down, I do know. Seems like he's got an advantage over a lot of male actors getting in the role that Olivia Wilde is directing. But anyway, jokes aside, I thought that the character he played, they were very smart. They didn't change his accent, which I think worked. The scenes that he kind of needed to act in, I thought that he hung pretty well with Florence, in my opinion. And I don't really see like what he did in the film that was that offensive to, like you said, Carl, that he should never act again. Me personally, how do you feel about that?
Well, there was one scene in particular where he's in the car and he's getting angry. He's trying to show emotion that just did not hit for me at all. Did not hit in any way, shape, or form. At that point, before that point, I thought, not really feeling. He's not really convincing. He's just playing a guy. But when he tried to show emotion, that's when I was like, nah, this is not working at all.
I've seen worse. I've seen worse.
So yeah, Harry Styles was one of was a negative for me, and I think that whole dance sequence, the whole dance segment of the film where he was on stage, it was almost like to remind people that, okay, even though I'm not that great an actor, I can still dance because this is where my strengths and where my background comes from. But yeah, his character was very one-dimensional, very, very one-dimensional for me. But he is quite new to the game. So maybe he can be afforded. I mean, look, we've sat on here and we've spoken about actors that are veterans and they're still one-dimensional. Yeah, but we can kind of give him some. He's got some time. He's got some time.
I agree with you there. I think the dancing scene, it was just unnecessary. But again, and as we'll go on in the conversation, the storyline of the film, obviously being as kind of weird and wacky as it was, and as it then came to light to be, I don't feel that Harry Styles needed to kind of act out of his shoes or needed to really provide such an amazing performance. I felt that he played his position. For me, the film was more focused on Florence Pugh, Alice, and how she was kind of interacting with what was going around, and everybody else. It felt like everybody was in her universe in the film. And obviously, I mean, I don't know about you three, but I think this has proven to me this girl can act. So I felt that with her being the lead and Harry being the supporting, I don't feel that he needed to do that much, really and truly. And I thought what he did was great. I mean, you can tell me your thoughts, but that scene where he first kind of loses his temper and they have that scene in the bedroom and they start shouting at each other, I was invested in that. I thought, okay, because that was the first scene where I was like, okay, let's see how good of an actor he is, how much emotion can he convey, how believable is he as this person, and I believed it.
Firstly, I have to pause what we're talking about because I see Carl's name is saying no to the Midsummer, and clearly my name is Midsummer, and the reason why my name is Midsummer is because of Florence Pugh. But the fact that man has the audacity to say no to the Midsummer after Florence Pugh probably got this role from her acting in Midsummer, and then she doubled down with another performance, and then you want to tell me no to the Midsummer? Anyway, back to the point. Harry Styles is an OG. You know why? Because he stayed in his lane. He did his limited acting in Dunkirk. He did his limited acting here. The girl that he was colluding with or concubining with, just said, let me give you a role, run with it. She said, oh, you can sing. Let you sing and dance for a minute. Hey, do it all, baby. I got you. And she did it. And he did it. And to be fair, you're telling me Harry Styles is never going to be the greatest actor. But if you're going to try to tell me he gave me a 1-star performance, there are liars in this room, because he didn't. He gave you a credible performance for the ability he has. I don't know what you're expecting from him. And but my thing is, did he distract from your overall enjoyment of the film?
Yes, he did.
Okay. So
unfortunately, his performance took me out of the film. I don't know why you guys are allowing him. I'm not saying you can't. Your defense of him can't be that, he did all right. It wasn't the worst. No, it just wasn't a good performance. I don't care about his name, who he is. I look at an actor. Did he act well? No, he didn't. Did he convey his emotions well? No, he didn't. That scene you're talking about where they're arguing, nah. I didn't feel like it was believable. And because, again, they're in the same scene, you look at Florence and you look at him and it's head and shoulders. It's head and shoulders.
And that's okay.
It's not okay.
Learning.
No.
This is his learning. No. Because for me personally,
no. You don't get to learn on a big film like this.
Well, Blake Lively says you don't. So what can I say? What can I do?
Well, there's two things I want to add to that, Carl. The first thing I'll say, I understand the point you're making, and I do agree with it. However, I kind of want to pull the conversation. Obviously, you've made a statement about Harry Styles, but I feel the bigger conversation here, like we'll get into, I'm sure now, is the plot of the film, the mood of the film, the feeling this film was giving you. Very, very quickly into this, I did feel like, okay, this is, well, at the time, I thought it was a film set in the 40s or the 50s, whenever it was. And
crazy.
I got the vibe of, okay, so Florence Pugh's character is the sort of stay-at-home wife. Everything's fine. Everything's glossy. Harry Styles, the sort of, not macho, but the man's man of that era, goes to work, comes back, food on the table, very kind of down-tempo. And then, again, where obviously he's British and everyone else is American, I did kind of get that kind of, well, he's migrated from the UK or whatever. This is what he's doing. It was calm. It was very normal. It was very normal, because I can imagine that might be how a lot of arguments and a lot of interaction between couples might go. The second thing, and you cannot take this away from him, and I will be dropping 3 bombs here, man was moving randy. And listen, I don't care what you say about his acting. That was job. Very good.
He was like, hey, baby girl, I'ma take you. I got you right now. I'm gonna lay that smack down.
Listen, I went with Amber and I was nudging her, saying, look, you brought your notepad. This is how easy it is, This is how easy it is. Don't have to do much. Man was, I thought that was very believable. That was the main point of what I was going to say. But yeah, guys, the storyline, the plot, the feeling of this film. Giles, where did this take you, like, from the beginning?
So, yeah, like yourself, 1950s setting, very, man goes out to work, wife stays at home. I got a bit of Stepford Wives vibes from it. If anyone's seen Stepford Wives, and you could see quite early on that it was building to something. Things were not quite what they seem. And yeah, aesthetically, loved it. The very vibrant. The colors are very vibrant, very in your face. But then, when it came to the big reveal, I felt a little bit let down. And for me, I had a couple of questions, which we'll come on to later on.
Yeah. So, if we talk about the storyline, I think the problem with this film is that it shows you more or less right from the start, within the first 10 minutes, that something's not quite right here. So straight away, you've taken that element of disbelief away. Already I'm like, all right, what's going on here? There's something not quite right in this town. So you've already eliminated half of your film, because to me, there's no reveal. That's my
suspense.
Yeah,
building suspense.
Nah, but there was no suspense, because I didn't ever feel like it was a real place to begin with. There was something off, and the way she was revealing certain things, I was like, yeah, well, it's obvious. It's like an extended episode of Black Mirror. That's what I thought, but not at the same level. That's my issue with the story. There's a lot of plot holes that I'm sure Giles even saw as well, that we can get into. But yeah, the story was basic to me. Nothing really happened. I feel you wanted to put these themes, like you said, about 1950s, but it was so overt, so in your face. I think when you want to do themes, I like it when it's a bit more subtle. That's why I think about the story.
I feel like you lot are losing the plot of how to enjoy a film sometimes, because like I like the fact that I was guided to be told that there's something wrong. I enjoyed the fact that we see the black woman moving what's considered mad in that society that she's in, and I don't know why she's moving mad. I like that. And then I'm like, oh, there's something gonna happen. And I was like, oh. Then I see Florence trying to be smart and trying to work things out. And I was like, oh. And I was just like, this is the kind of film that people should watch if they want to like slowly engage themselves into, you're right, into a Black Mirror concept or something like that. Because this is the kind of film where you'd be like, okay, you know something's gonna happen, but you don't know what. And I didn't see the twist. I didn't see it. It perplexed me. I can't even lie to you. And also, what entertained me even more is that even once I realized there was a twist gonna happen, the depth that Chris Pine had shown, like I've never seen him act before. He was acting like he had to save his life, because I've never seen him act like that before. I see a man shaking his head. I see a man being angry. But this is the factual information I'm telling you I experienced, okay? I've never seen a man act like that before. That's him. Because I've seen him, and every time I think he's act, I just think he's Captain Kirk. And that's what and then I'm just like, you can't really act. He could be a sinister baddie in a Bond film, you know. And if you can't see that, it's not for me to tell you, because you won't see it ever.
Mari, I'm gonna piggyback off you, because I feel like this doesn't happen often, but yes, everything you're saying is exactly how I felt. I pretty early on realized something obviously is not correct here, but for me, it was very suspenseful. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know where it was going. Let's talk about the look as well. The whole kind of set of where they were, that kind of area in LA or Cali, wherever they were. Obviously, it was made to look perfect, but even that was very eerie. I think they got the set perfect. I love the way that obviously it was very vibrant. And obviously, as we go on later on, you have the complete contrast. And I think that's another thing that we always mention: the color, the vibrancy of the areas that these films are laid in. Sometimes we say cinematography, but I think the color does play a big part in that, especially like this kind of weirdness that was going on, this eeriness. The music as well added to the suspense for me. I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised, Carl. Like, I thought you would have enjoyed the journey that I feel that Olivia Wilde was taking you on this, because I definitely did, Amari. I was with you all the way there.
Yeah, I did not enjoy the storyline. I did not think there was any suspense. The only thing I will give it is visually, it was good in terms of the colours. But that's about it. I'll give it the visuals and Florence Pugh. Outside of that, I didn't feel any suspense. Again, the messaging was too obvious for me. I've seen this before. I've seen it done in better ways as well. So, yeah, the things you liked, I did not.
I think my opinion of this is one of them films that's a bit weird, because as much as I enjoyed the film, there was so much that I didn't like. And again, that's down to so what I said earlier in terms of, and as echoing you earlier with the colours. So the set of this town, I don't know if any of you are Call of Duty fans. It reminded me of there's a map on there called Nuketown, and it's basically one of these towns that were they're like nuclear or bomb testing towns, and I think they even recreated it in the last Indiana Jones movie. He wakes up in this fake town. So it gave me the Nuketown vibes. But then, and I especially like that deep red that those weird guys who, when anyone wasn't conforming to anything, they would just appear out of nowhere. And it kind of had me wondering, like, what were they doing when they weren't dragging people off? Like,
Exactly.
What were they doing?
That's the first plot hole.
There was government agents. They was waiting. There's like,
so, but then, like I said, and then when I started asking myself that, then I started asking myself other questions, like, what was the plane crash all about?
Mm-hmm.
Why did Frank's wife kill him at the end? And then she just killed him for no reason. She didn't even kill him, and then
You don't know what was going on at home, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a ton of these, which is probably going to make you think, well, why did he say he enjoyed it? But yeah, I'll save that for my wrap up.
Alright, so I have some things I need to rebuttal here quickly, for the benefit of the podcast and the benefit of other viewers and people who you should be watching Don't Worry Darling, because Don't Worry Darling was a magnificent piece of entertainment, even with the confusion that it's given others, which I can appreciate. It did do me at sometimes. The plane we don't care about. Fine, we can move on from the plane because it's a plane. Plane crashes all the time. Her curiosity got in the way, which is why she went to go see it. Okay, thank you very much. That answers that question. Now,
No, it doesn't. But continue.
well, I
No,
answered
it
the
doesn't.
question.
Sorry.
I am the now Prime Minister of the UK. That answers this question. Thank you very much. Now let me continue. Appreciate it. Now, Kyle, your agenda against Florence Pugh films needs to stop. Okay, we've had 2 5-star showings from her.
Well, she did do Black Widow.
We've had 2 5-star showings from her that we've reviewed. Okay, just to clarify, right? Okay, and you're still not enjoying her films. Do you need to look in the mirror and say you have an issue with Florence Pugh? If that's the case, then fair enough. You can go do that in your own time. Now, there's also an issue that someone raised about why did Frank's wife kill him. Frank's wife knew, but she didn't know. But she knew. And then she got triggered by finding out that my man had died. That was the trigger point where she was like, oh God, I know. Now I know. I need to do something about it. She said, oh, let me give you that spear. And she gave him the spear with the knife, okay? That is the way I want to perceive it, and that is the way it's been.
This is hilarious. This is hilarious.
This is why
Sorry, can I just ask?
Yes.
What genre is Don't Worry Darling supposed to be?
Oh, so this is the wonderful part.
It's meant to be a thriller, mystery, drama, science fiction, but you've just turned it into a comedy.
Oh, see, I see all these things and more. I even see romance in this bad boy. Do you know how messed up in your mind that you have to be in that much love to be with someone to say that I want to spend 5 hours a day in a simulated world controlling their lives to lick them out, then to say I spend the other 18 hours doing the job to pay for it? That's some kind of love I don't want to have, but that should be wild, motherfucker. So, that is the film that I watched. I can give more when we do wrap-ups, but I'm telling you people, this shit was good.
Yeah. So, by not addressing issues with the film and just providing your own made-up, skipped-over theories, that's not addressed. So actually, I think we should vote Amari for Prime Minister because he's just done a grand job of just not answering any of the questions. Like the fact that the plane was prominent because she kept on seeing it. I mean, was it Margaret? She went out to the desert to the detriment of her own life and her child's life for this plane that you're just going to say, oh, it's not central to the plot. It was very central to the plot, but there was no explanation for it. Zero. There was literally even if there was some sort of symbolism, what was it symbolizing?
There doesn't need to be a symbol. All the plane is escapism. They wanted to escape the virtual reality, and that's all it is.
So the plane was an NPC, is that what you're telling me? The plane was an NPC.
Non-player character. Hey, this is Free Guy. This is a virtual world that we're in that we wasn't ready for. I wasn't ready for. And that's what happened.
Boo. Sorry.
I find it interesting the way you're making excuses for this.
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you how I perceived it.
You're giving your own conclusions, which are false.
Is it not my view? Is it not my view? All right.
Your view is incorrect.
Let me just jump in there because again, Amari, I feel I have to. I'm backing you on this one, bro. We watched Nope. We had a similar conversation for Nope. There was a lot of things that we kind of had to take as they were and make of it what you will to fit in whatever you took from the film. I will say at this point, after watching Don't Worry Darling, I think it's an excellent example of when a lot of things happen that you may not be able to actually answer or have an understanding as to why that is, but then in the plot reveal and the storyline as it progressed and we got to see kind of things make sense at the end, the kind of reveal, because of the subject we were dealing with, for me, I didn't really need the answers. They would have been good. It would have been good to know, oh, that's what that was, and that's what that was. Because for me, I think one of the biggest issues I had was the whole how people die in the kind of Matrix, because I was getting Matrix vibes from this, how they died in the sort of fake place, and that transpired to them dying in real life.
Yeah, that didn't make sense.
There were a lot of questions I had, but I took from it what I was presented. I thought about the entertainment value. I thought about the suspense. I thought about the acting and the performances, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So I walked out of the cinema very confused, but I had a lot of talking points and I had a lot of, but what did this mean and that mean? But it was all said and done with kind of like, not frustration, because I enjoyed the film so much. And the last thing I feel that maybe we should touch on before we get to the our ratings, I thought there were some very, very good conversations to come out of this film. You know, the time that we're in, women empowerment, society as a whole, how men are viewed in society, how women are viewed in society. I do feel that this film kind of started to tap into some of those conversations. And I thought, what better place to talk about some of these conversations or see where you guys thought, or if you even thought of them before we get to the ratings. I mean, the most obvious one was the kind of how men and women, the two roles in society, what they kind of are perceived to be. Because in the real world, Harry Styles' character was the kind of down and out, you know, trying to make ends meet. And Florence Pugh was the one who was, you know, career-wise, she was doing very well. I think she was like a surgeon or something. And she was clearly, you know, the breadwinner of the situation. And Harry Styles' character had a bit of an issue with that. I thought that was a very interesting conversation to be had.
I thought it was basic. I really did. As I said, those themes were just far too obvious for me. The whole thing doesn't even make sense. So you want to put your wife to sleep in this virtual reality world because you're unsuccessful at getting a job, but then you somehow get a job that you need to pay to put this woman to sleep. How does that make any sense? The film is a joke.
Carl, you telling me you weren't tempted, nah? You weren't doubted. I know you were tempted. Because I fucking was, so I know you.
Hey, let me not live your life because I don't want to be tempted. I can't lie.
When Google was like,
and just
can I get a job like out of Don't Worry Darling?
and just to dovetail on that, like, why did she agree to do it? She worked. This guy sat at home and did fuck all.
Wait.
Did she agree though?
She didn't. She got kidnapped.
Yeah,
she got kidnapped and then knocked out and then got the device laid on her with the tube.
So then
like test tube baby.
Right, okay. So then it just shows what a deplorable character Harry Styles was.
I agree. But
okay. So then my next question should have been then, why was she even with him?
But that's a very, I mean, look, in the realm of relationships, in the realm of character, and you know, you like what you like, innit? I thought it was very believable.
To give a short answer that can't be answered for now, the gender dynamics is simple. I think let's call him Wasteman Dancer. Wasteman Dancer who can't act in Cowell's view. So Wasteman WDCA. Mr. WDCA. Yeah, I know, made it up right there. Mr. WDCA was just basically a bit of a bum and no ambition in life. But he loved the pum pum that he was getting, and he just wanted to make sure that he wanted to be the man in the pum pum's life. And you know, there's a lot of conversations, and I don't even feel like you need to have the internet anymore. There's a lot of conversations where a lot of men feel like that. And I feel like that was a good representation of it. So you say it could be simple, but a simple understanding is it represented, I'm going to say, part of the population, because some men don't know what to do with themselves. Whether I agree with that is not my point, but I'm just saying that's what it represented in my eyes, for me personally. Now, Blake Lively character decided she wants to be in the film, because obviously she couldn't see enough of Harry. She wanted to see him on stage, being with stage, in the stage with him. All puns intended. She said she wanted to be in the film to see her kids because she lost her kids, which I think is a very understandable reason. I don't agree with that virtual reality suck up that they're living in. But if you're telling me that you have that much PTSD from your kids not being with you, it's very understandable why you'd want to be in that scenario. Now, do I feel like that's actually the correct environment for them not to be in? No. But do I feel like it's a reasonable expectation that this is the way human race is going? Yes.
And that is all I wanted to add. I think if you gave, let's talk about the country, not even the world. I think if you gave a lot of people the option in this country to do something like this, I think you'd be very surprised how many people would take that opportunity. Kyle, final thoughts from you, then we'll get to the ratings.
Yeah, again, I think I can't remember what other film we're talking about. It's not to say this wasn't realistic from that aspect, that people, that's where we're heading. We're heading to the metaverse. So there's definitely going to be a lot of people. But the point to Amari's thing, that there's guys that will do this, but he already had the girl. The guys that will do this are the guys that can't get women. When he's in this virtual reality, he's not even beating it. He's eating. Yeah? So I do not agree with him. It was a bit confused. He wasn't really being the man because he wasn't forcing it. He wasn't taking control like that, even in the metaverse, I'm going to call it. So I disagree with that point, Amari.
But I agree, you can disagree, but what type of control he wanted was not the type of control that he was pursued or given over her. He was controlling her life. He wanted her to be basically per se a servant. That's basically what he wanted. So what do you want me to do? He was getting servitude behavior. He was feeling better from it. Imagine coming home and say, "Hey wife, why is my food not cooked?" He doesn't even have to raise his voice. She just does it. Can you imagine a life like that? Imagine coming home and it's just there. You'll be like, what is going on?
A man can dream.
The world is not that
Or
world.
you can just enter Frank's simulation.
Or just order yourself rustlers 5 days a week. Giles, what are you going to rate Don't Worry Darling?
So like I said, this is one of these really weird films, which I'm glad I watched, but my rating won't reflect it. So I'm going to give this 2 stars, just simply because of the sheer magnitude, which I'm probably not going to be allowed to get into, or not going to have enough time to get into, of the plot holes, which just, the more I thought, it's like it got to the point where I was thinking of plot holes for the sake of thinking of plot holes. And that, to me, that isn't good. So while I was glad I watched the film. Yeah, it's only 2 stars for me.
Kyle, what are you going to rate Don't Worry Darling?
I'm rating it 1 star.
Wow.
Uncalled for. Actually, uncalled
1 star.
for.
The only good thing, there were 2 good things about this movie. Florence Pugh's performance, I will give that to her. She is a quality actress. And again, how it looked visually, I was impressed. Now, outside of that, nothing else worked. The plot was all over the place. It didn't impress me. It didn't excite me. So that's one thing. Outside of the plot, as I've mentioned, Harry Styles, I don't want to see him act again. I don't. I just don't. It's frustrating that people like him get these roles when I've been told it was meant to be Shia LaBeouf that was meant to play that character, and it was replaced by Harry Styles, which is just a joke in itself. Outside of that, there were too many things that did not make any sense. So for that reason, I'm giving it 1 star, because I came away with more questions than I had answers, and I came away again feeling like these themes you're trying to overtly put onto me just don't really add up. I've seen it done better in other TV shows, aka Black Mirror, and other films such as Her. So 1 star from me.
Kyle, you're still doing Midsummer Part 2 vibes, basically, is what we're doing. Is that what you're doing?
No, it wasn't as bad as Midsummer, because that's one of the worst films I've ever seen.
Because every time you see a Florence Pugh main actress film, you're talking all this smack. I'm a ride out for Florence. I don't even like the girl, but I'm a ride out for her because this is unacceptable behavior. You're saying that this film looked good again.
Kyle, Amari, I know how to just sort out this beef once and for all. Amari, go and make yourself a strong drink. And Kyle, watch Fighting with My Family and then you'll know about Florence Pugh's levels. That's it. Because I know, obviously, this is another Midsummer-esque, vibey kind of film. Fighting with my family, watching that, and then watching her come back to this, the girl's got range. That's all I'm going to say.
No, I gave her. I said she gave a quality performance. That doesn't make up for the rest of the film.
Yeah, but every time she gives a quality performance, you say in the film shit.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That shows you bad selection. That's bad film selection. That's what that shows you.
But that would be bad film selection by her.
Yeah.
So you're saying she's a bad selector.
Oh, yeah.
The agent.
Yeah.
The bad script, right? There's bad script readers. All right.
Most definitely. So she needs to sort that out. Because as Giles mentioned, Black Widow as well. So it's bad choices. I'm trying to think of a film that I've enjoyed her in.
No one's talking about Black Widow, and that's okay. We don't talk about films that get black ratings, the dots. That's a dot. That's a mummy dot rating, like that and other stuff. But anyway,
and what is Midsummer then?
5 stars. What's my name? What's my name right there? Midsummer 5 stars. That's my name. Don't take on my name. Respect my name. I'm on my Birdman shizzle dizzle right now. Suck it. Yeah. Now
this guy.
Omari,
let me talk about my rating
in this film as well.
What is your rating for Don't Worry Darling?
Has he not given it yet, no?
I almost gave it 5 stars because of the smack that you man are talking. I almost did. I cannot lie.
5.
But I have to be respectful and give it the 4 because I left thinking, it has issues, but the issues it has does not outweigh its actual entertainment and necessary use because it was actually sensational. The reason why it was sensational is because it gave you insight in the different ways to think about a man's concept in this society and why a man is so confused in this world that we live in, within the range of the world that we have lived in the last 50 odd years. 1. 2. Florence Pugh's acting. Chris Pine, I'm telling you, if Chris Pine is the next Bond villain, I'm going to stab someone who's not Chris Pine because somebody needs to die to be the next Bond villain to make sure he is the next Bond villain. I used to stab his looky like.
Listen, if you stab someone who's not Chris Pine, you won't be watching the next Bond movie.
He just needs to be the next Bond villain. That's all I need.
You'll be watching it after 20 years when you're paroled, fella. This film's got you moving mad.
It was mad. It was mad. It was lit. It was everything I needed it to be without even knowing I needed it. That's what I'm saying about this film, right? Imagine I had to watch another film at the same time as this film, and I was thinking, is this what we're serving up next to it? Nah, I'm telling you, you need to understand this film. Watch it again. You watch how it works. It's a 4-star film. If anybody tells you differently, they're idiots, and they're actual idiots because they don't have their eyes open, and that's okay. People have their eyes closed in 2022. We're gonna go into 2023. Their eyes will be open now. Yes.
4 stars from Amari. I'm also going to give this 4 stars. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I think as we've spoken about, there was a lot of things that were questionable and didn't make sense straight away to me, but I did enjoy the suspense. I did enjoy the kind of the mystery of the plot and the storyline. I liked where it was going. I thought Florence, as we've said, she's up there for me now in terms of this era, female actresses that are killing it in their roles. She, after this, has proven to me she has great range. I thought Harry Styles did well. I think this is not his first, is it his second, maybe second role in a major flick, and I thought he actually did well. I thought he hung with Florence, and again, Florence is an amazing actress, so to be in scenes with her and for me being able to kind of hang, I give him his props. I like the way that the film kind of had a bit of a glamour and a bit of a gleam to it. I think it really embodied the ethos of that time, of everything being perfect, everything being neat, everything looking a certain way. We didn't really speak about Chris Pine, but I felt that he played his part. Again, didn't really need to do much, but kept everything moving along as it should. And yeah, the whole reveal, the whole kind of storyline, how it ended, and we got to understand exactly what had been going on, I thought was another little twist on themes that we've seen already, but I liked how Olivia brought that, and also the questions, as we said, some of the questions about, gender and positions in society and that kind of thing. I thought there was a lot to take out from this film. So it's 4 stars from me, which gives Don't Worry Darling a TMRG star rating of 3 stars.
I've just been told, Amari. I've just been told that based off the the success of this movie, they're making a sequel, and you're going to get cast in it. It's called Calm Down, Dear. That's what it's called.
I was like, it don't need a sequel.
Oh man.
Film number 2, The Woman King, released October the 4th, 2022, directed by Gina Prince Bythewood. We had Viola Davis as Naniska, Thusu Mbedu as Nawi, Lashana Lynch as Izogi, and John Boyega as King Gezo. A historical epic inspired by true events that took place in the Kingdom of Dahomey, one of the most powerful states of Africa in the 18th and 19th centuries.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Hey!
Kyle, were you entertained?
Yes.
Amari, were you entertained?
Yes.
Giles, were you entertained?
Yes.
Full House, I was entertained as well.
Oh, that's good.
Didn't say I liked it though. Didn't say I enjoyed the film though.
Well, I tell you what, if we weren't all entertained about a film, you know, that documents the motherland, I'm going to ask to see some identification.
People are getting booted.
Yeah, I might be doing this podcast all by myself. Listen, don't get twisted.
Well, I think there's a fair amount to say about this. Amari, would you like to kick things off? How was your experience of The Woman King, and what did you think of the film?
I was very conflicted. I'll be honest. Before I got into the film, obviously didn't watch reviews or anything like that. But clearly, I knew about certain issues, or let's say context of the film. That every time there's a slave film, it's not always. I don't want to watch any more slave films. You lot already know this. I already told you. I don't watch no more slave films. I'm tired. And any film that has to do anything to do with slavery, I'm tired. And it was very disappointing that the way it was, I'm going to say the way the film was put out in marketing was said that slavery, it's not saying slavery didn't happen. It was like, it was against slavery. And that's not how the film, I don't know if the film actually portrayed that because I still haven't done my research. And that concerned me before I get to the film. Now, if I actually watch the film with no context, because I like this word, no context, it makes sense. When you watch a film, do you want to see action? I've got that in the first 2 minutes. First 2 to 6 minutes, I was like, oh, I'm blown away. I've never seen Viola Davis move. And I was very impressed. I heard that she'd done training for it, but I was like, oh, this is impressive.
Just as you touch on Viola Davis, we need to give this woman her respect. One of the GOATs.
This is the reason why I have a complex issue with the film.
Uh-oh.
You asked me if I like the film. You didn't ask me I have a complex issue with. I know she's a great actress. I'm not debating her acting ability. That's not the issue at hand for me. She was sidetracking, but she did The Help, right? And she got her Oscar for The Help. She ran round about 10 years later and said she should have never have done The Help because of the way it portrays black people, etc., etc. Cool. But you didn't do that, and then you come and do this later. You do a film that's talking about, oh yes, women are empowered, but we still took people and made them slaves that are our own people.
So why don't we have the discussion? Because I feel like we're having it, but not having it. Why don't we have the discussion?
It's just, I'm only talking about from where I was coming from to watch the film. So I'm just saying how...
Of course, but it's funny because the way you're breaking it down, I think is perfect because this is how I kind of came into this, but I have a feeling Giles and Carl might have come into it through similar or very close to that. And I think maybe this is a good point to have the discussion because I'll say now, I came into this completely blind. I didn't see anything about controversy. I didn't see anything about issues. It's only after I've watched it, gone and done some research, watched a few other reviews, and I've now discovered all the problems that this film was causing. So Giles, how do you feel about the controversy? And maybe it's best to start with addressing it, and then we can go into how we maybe feel about what it was and how it affected maybe our thoughts on the film now.
So let's be clear. Which controversy are we talking about?
I think maybe the first one, because I feel like Amari was touching on it, is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I can't say it verbatim, but it's something to do with maybe the people of Dahomey actually, rather than liberating slaves, weren't they playing a part in actually capturing and helping the slave trade or something along those lines?
Okay, all right. So I don't really think that's controversial, because to me, that's okay. So obviously, my heritage is Jamaican. But if you look at the origins of Jamaica, the first, the people that were what do they call them? The indigenous population of Jamaica was, you go back as far as the Arawak Indians. Yeah. So we didn't really have black people over there. So obviously we would have come from Africa via the slave trade. Now, it doesn't take, it's something that isn't, for me, growing up, it was never acknowledged, but it was quite obvious that, okay, the white man, let's just be general, these slave traders, they didn't just come in and take everyone, so there must have been, and again, the key is in the name, it's slave trade. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, they even though they didn't explicitly go into it, I think John Boyega's character, he said, his dad, sold out his mum, all the rest of it, like, and he was trying to. I know they tried to make it out like he was trying to put a stop to it, or Viola Davis's character was trying to put a stop to it. But I don't think that was like. It's one of these films, There's always going to be historical inaccuracies. There's always going to be, we weren't there, and even if we were, there's different sides to the story. I think not even my biggest issue, but my biggest takeaway was the film's title, or how the film was billed. In terms, it was very much billed as Viola Davis being the main character, but she actually wasn't. She actually, it was what's her name? What's the daughter's name?
That's Thuso Mbedu as Nawi.
Yeah. Nawi was blatantly the main character, but she wasn't. She wasn't kind of given that top billing. Even the woman king. But was it really about the woman king?
You know what? I've got to admit, I'm with you there. Done some research and seen that there's been an uproar in the depiction of the Dahomey people and obviously the slave trading and stuff that's gone on. I'm not going to take too much from that, because again, and I think it was Quentin Tarantino that said it best when there was the whole dispute about Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And he was like, it's my film. I'm writing a script. It's not real. I can have whatever happens. It's my film. I'll do what I want. Now, that being said, obviously, slavery, the slave trade, this is a very, very, very sensitive and touching subject. So it's one of those things I think you kind of have to approach with dignity, respect, and tread carefully. But I'm not going to criticize Gina Prince Bythewood, completely for maybe taking characters or taking something that is real, making something that isn't real, or writing a story that is fiction. I'm not going to criticize her for that, because ultimately the film is a film. It's not speaking as this is historical, this is history. It's that very fine line between historical events and fiction. So in terms of the controversies and stuff, I'm not going to let it judge how I felt about the film. Kyle, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, so again, like you, I didn't know about the controversies till after I watched the film. But I think the problem is that although, like Giles said, they did touch on the fact that they were trading slaves themselves, I think the problem I have is the depiction. I feel like in the film we're made to root for the Dahomey people. Whereas actually, when you look into the history, these are not the sort of people that you're meant to be rooting for. Lupita even dropped out of the role after she was doing her documentary and actually went to Benin and found out about the Ogoje and the Dahomey people. And I think they had shipped over 2 million people from the 17th century to the 19th century. So then the fact that the film you're depicting these people is, we're trying to get out of that, but you almost feel like you're rooting for them against the oil people. So I think it's almost like I when I thought about it, it's like if they tried to put Hitler in a film and then they're not taking away what he's done. They might acknowledge that he sent all of these Jews to their deaths, but then they pit him against someone else that's worse than him, and then you're rooting for Hitler in that movie. That's how I looked at it. So
to be fair, I feel it.
Yeah, it's a right. Bit. That's the conclusion I came to.
But this is why I was angry before the film or during the film. Like, not during the film, because I was enjoying the film, but this is why I was having issues with the film. Nothing to do with the film itself. It was just how you trying to present yourself like this. So I was like, you're trying to present yourself as this is the best of black people. But this is the actual story. And we're not even afraid to say this is the story. This is the actual story. Whereas when you watch other films, they change everything just to fit the narrative or conversation. Which is why I had the issue with the film. Which is why I have an issue with Viola Davis. I don't feel like it's good for her to actually be in that position. When you first said, I will do the help. I shouldn't have done the help. Then 2 to 3 years later, you then record in a film that's probably worse than the help in terms of actual tones when it comes to slavery and the development and the
bit longer than 2 to 3 years. She did the help in 2011.
No, but she did the help in 2011. But then it's like 10 years later, she said, "Oh, I shouldn't have done the help. I don't understand." It's an article, or if I find it, I'll send it. But basically, she said, "I shouldn't have done the help because it's disrespectful to black people and to my family and etc. for doing it because of how it made us portrayed." But then you would do this. It's like a double down feature. And then all I was thinking is that she was represented, Viola Davis as a person, was looking like the wife, or the supposed wife, or the wanted to be wife of John Boyega. Because my woman was like, "Hey, slavery's not a thing, It's a thing that we need to do because we want to stay in power." I was like, "Hey, this is a bit Mazzini."
Well, you've kind of segued perfectly into the next topic I think we should touch on. And the only thing I wanted to say in conclusion to this whole controversy of how the kingdom of, or the people of Dahomey behaved, I guess the only question I would put to Gina Prince's wife would be why not just make it fictional, completely fictional, almost like Wakanda? Why not talk about the real subject of slavery, but you don't have to use tribes and places and people that were real, maybe, and just make it kind of a fantastical story that has truths within it that you could relate to the real world. Giles, Carl, how do you feel about that?
Just touching on that point where you said about why didn't they make it completely fictional? Well, you know why they didn't make it completely fictional, because can you imagine the outroar? Can you imagine the frigging outroar if they'd have just got, hang on, oh my gosh, you've desecrated absolutely yeah, that wouldn't have worked. That wouldn't have worked. Nah. There's no way. Like, I mean, look, Amari, how do you feel about Black Panther? Look at his face.
I respect Black Panther as much as I respect the Mummy.
You didn't say that at the time. You did not say that at the time.
I said the Mummy, which means it's a dot. It's not a good film.
No,
it's
not
film.
your rating. I was talking about anyway, forget that. But
yeah. Black Panther's a shit film. Oh yeah. The accent's a shitter. To be fair, the accents tried in this film, but it was also shit. But we're gonna get to that. But the accents in this film was shit.
I just think there would have been a massive outroar or uproar if they'd have kind of, like you said, it's quintessentially. It's not. I don't want to call it a slave film, but it has slave themes, and slave themes, they evoke certain very strong emotions, and it's like it's a bad topic that you're making in an entertainment form. Like you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So I think she was kind of on a hide into nothing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think the other thing that obviously as part of the controversy the screenwriter was white as well.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so from my understanding, how this came about, she went to Benin and heard about the tribe of the Agoshi. So obviously, she's thinking, wow, an all female tribe, they were strong, powerful. I want to make a movie about this. And just completely put the historical background out of the picture. That's why, again, there's that controversy that's how it came across to me. You found out about all these powerful women warriors. You want to get your message out about women, and so I'm going to make a film about them, but just disregard the role that they played.
You didn't do your research, lad. You didn't do your research. If that is, and okay, look, we're not here to, well, we are here to judge, but you kind of have to kind of call a spade, and I feel that I'd like to know, rather than cast judgment, I'd just put it in a question form. I'd like to know maybe why, and I'm going to do some research and see if she's answered the question in the interviews, but I'd like to know what it was that made her want to make this film then specifically about the people of Dahomey, because it could be like you're saying, Kyle, she was drawn to the women empowerment, the kind of role reversal, which kind of fits the rhetoric of this day and age. But there might have been other reasons. But yeah, I'd like to know why. So I think I'll be doing some research in that. I think the next point of discussion to talk about, let's get into the film, the performances. Giles, how did you feel about them?
Yeah, I enjoyed. I've forgotten her fucking name again because you've made my mind go back.
Nawi.
Yeah, her performance. I mean, we'll get into her age, what her real age is, but her performance, I was quite captivated by her eyes. Just, you know, they did a lot of her scenes where, you know, she had these really bright eyes that it sold her emotions for me. Viola Davis, I'm a massive fan. You know, I know all about her from How to Get Away with Murder. You know, if you want intensity, if you want, you know, emotion, you know, without doing much, she's on it. John Boyega was solid. The villain, I don't know the guy who played him, but he was a little bit annoying. And the Portuguese guy, who's actually English, he was a bit wet. But other than that, I thought.
Well, the mixed race or the white one.
Yes. So the good guy. The mixed race.
There's a good one in this film. Oh my gosh.
The good guy.
Oh my gosh, there's a good one.
The good guy.
His character and his performance was paper thin. I just want to get that in there.
Yeah, wet. It was almost like, how many scenes can I just take my top off and show my chiseled physique? Like literally.
And that little I'm just jumping off you here, Giles. That little scene when he was washing Nawi's hands, and that was just creepy. It was very creepy.
Yeah, his whole thing was a waste of time. There was no reason for him to be in this film. That whole subplot was just pointless.
What the love plot? He wanted to fall in love back with his and the women that he wanted to be with, and he made him be a paedophile because she was 14 in my head because of the age that she was basically saying get married, because there's no 30-year-old woman who's getting kicked out of their house to say get married in that day because they will be married already. You know how mad that I would. And you're I have issues. See, if you don't have issues with the other film, I have more issues with this film. But it's okay. We can continue.
I'm just going to throw this out there in the conversation of performances. I'll be honest, boys. For me, this film was a Channel 5 film, just filmed with a Hollywood budget. Outside of Viola Davis, outside of the female warriors, I think we had some great performances from like the main ones there. They kind of helped as well. Nawi as well. Outside of that, I think that the performances were poor. John Boyega. Now, I don't know how you man feel about his performance, but there was nothing about him that said king to me. There was nothing about him. He didn't command the scenes. He didn't have presence. He didn't speak in a way that I felt, was endearing. Wasn't, other than a pretty decent African accent, which the man's Nigerian, so he's got to have grown up around that. I didn't really think there was much to sing from the rooftops there. The main villain, I can't remember his name now. Maybe one of you can help me out. But again, other than the kind of Prince of Persia get up he had that made him look a bit menacing, paper thin. The performances here, and that was what I kind of struggled with, because I really wanted to enjoy this film. I really wanted to come out thinking this was brilliant. Slave, warrior, you know, that kind of vibe, empowered, maybe a little historical, whatever. But I just felt like this film was fighting with itself in various areas. But the form of performances was a big one for me.
Yeah, I think you're being a bit harsh. I must admit, when I first saw John Boyega, I did think he's not giving me them kind of king vibes. But then when he started actually acting and speaking, I was like, no, actually, very believable. I actually liked his performance in this. The guy from the oil empire, he didn't really have much to do. He was a bit annoying, but I felt like that's how they wrote the character. But outside of the Portuguese, both of the Portuguese, I thought the performances throughout were quite strong. Lashana Lynch, who played Igozi, she annoyed me so much in Bond that I thought I couldn't watch something with her again. But she was actually good in this film as well. So I thought performance-wise,
Hey, man was
blown away by that comment.
They are liars.
I saw Mari get blown away to the back of his room, boy.
A man said the performance was good, but you could get past the accent. But you could get past the accent for the performance to be good. You are a liar. You are a thief.
Wait. So, shall we speak about the accents?
No.
There's not really much to say about the accents.
You said no. There is, because you said her performance was good with that accent. Let me do the accent that she did. I am a woman. My hand was burned once. I am here. I'm a warrior. That was her accent.
No. I did not think it was that bad. No,
it was that bad.
I did not think it was that bad. I really didn't. But Amari, you're harsh anyway, because you were getting on to everyone in Black Panther.
Sorry, I was correct. Well. I was correctly getting on to everyone in Black Panther, but continue with what you were saying.
No, I was just
that Lashana Lynch comment.
I thought she gave a good performance. I was happy with her performance. I didn't have an issue with her accent either. That's what I wanted to say about performances. I'll pass it to you, Amari.
You're a liar. Okay, and Giles is a liar. He's not said to you. You're both liars.
But
just to be clear, if you want to agree that she gave a good performance because of her accent, my issue is you're an actor and you're doing a role. So if you're doing a role that's not your native tongue, you're supposed to do the accent that matches that what you're doing. And if you're doing that, it's a poor accent equals a poor performance. That's it for me. Sorry. Do you want to do the reel of people who have done acting with accents? Because wait. Because I will find you a pikey man, and I know a guy's not a pikey man, and you did a pikey man accent, and it makes sense to me. But if you want to go through accents and you acting at the same time, you're going to try to tell me that's good. You're going to try to tell me the standard that she gave us is good. Is that what you're going to say?
If you're directing at me, then I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say the first person that came to mind with accents is Leonardo DiCaprio in Blood Diamond. Now, when I watched that film, I thought his accent was good. But then when I read reviews afterwards, people were killing his accent, but I thought it was good and I enjoyed his performance. So I'm putting her in that same category of I didn't have an issue with her accent and I thought the performance was good.
So you're definitely going to like Black Panther 2 then? Because boy, I heard the accent's going to be the same again. So let's go. We know what you're going to say.
Amari, I'd just like to ask you, how many people do you know that were born in the 18th or 17th century from the Kingdom of Dahomey? Because I need to know how you're able to measure how a Dahomean accent.
She sounds like me putting an African accent on, and I know that I shouldn't do that. So once I know I shouldn't do that, you need to act it better than I shouldn't do that. And all you did was give me that what I would do, which means your acting ability for this role is poor.
But I think that's very subjective.
It's not subjective
hold
because...
on. As an African man, 2 African parents who has travelled to West Africa numerous times in my life, has numerous Africans in my family who I've been around and heard, I will say this. I wouldn't say it was the most convincing African accent by far. However, in the realm of the film we were watching and the role she was playing, I didn't hear anything that sounded too offensive. There were parts where she maybe sounded a bit static, it sounded a little bit forced. But if this film was set in today's world, I would have more of an issue, because I would say that the quality and the dynamics of that West African accent maybe should sound a bit more cohesive, a bit more. But I guess what I'm trying to say, back then, it almost sounded a little bit Neanderthal, carnal. I'm going to accept that because we're going way back.
Okay,
so
but wait.
That was the only thing I wanted to say about accents. I didn't find the accents here were that offensive or stood out as I can't now get into the characters or the film because their accents are standing out as poor or sound too forced.
Sorry, Giles, give me 1 second. So you're trying to tell me that you're going to watch a film that's supposed to be set in a time period and then those people can't do the accents of the film? Because that's what you just said. That's basically what you just said.
But I don't know what the accent's supposed to sound like.
Well, that's what I'm being told.
Can I answer that?
And you couldn't accept it. You didn't think it was believable in the slightest.
I already knew how bad Viola Davis was going to be, and she even passed the American grade of being bad to poor. Yeah? I got from her bad to poor, and you're giving me a woman who's giving me bad all the way through.
Yeah, Mari, I think you're being really very harsh. Accents are so subjective, especially like when Elliot said, you throw into a time period. You know, if you look at how, okay, if you look at like, so let's just I'll give you a couple of examples. Let's take the film Yardie. Did anyone see Yardie? Yeah, Amari, you nearly spat your drink out. That means you saw it.
And that was just for the cast. That was I forget his name, but Trife out of Kidulthood.
There's a reason why I don't do films anymore. There's a reason why.
Yeah,
I think something I can't remember. But yeah, I mean the accents. The fact that Stephen Graham had the best Jamaican accent in the film,
but that's acting ability. That's what I'm trying to say.
Just said it all. So yeah, a film set in the 1800s, which and Amari, we've talked about dates before. When what was the war film? We 1917, and you were like, yeah, but they should have done this. And I was like, bro, it's 1917. I can't even remember the soundbite. It's in the car somewhere. So yeah, I don't. The accents were what they were. Do you know what I mean? They didn't. Listen, they just did generic accents. They were just generic accents. You know, what's that? What's the country now called? Because it's not even called that anymore. So was it Benin?
Yeah, it's Benin. Yeah.
Yeah. How many people do we know from Benin? What do they sound like?
But does it sound African?
Does anyone know? No. But that's the point. It's not like you've got, you know, you're sat watching this next to some authentic sounding. Some person from Benin, and you can say, they were just generic accents. They didn't do a bad job.
And off the back of that, Giles, I mean, the last thing I'll say on it is, all right, let's speak on cadence, that West African cadence. You know, it's going to be jumping up and down like this, and you know, it's going to be. You kind of know. That is what, if you went to 100 people on the road, it's horrible. But it's the point I'm making is, you ask 100 people out there, could you do an impression of a West African, Nigerian? They're going to probably speak like this. They're going to speak a bit misjointed. So I'm not going to cuss them too much for this. As I say, if it was set in a more modern setting, then I would probably have more to say because there's more to go off. There's more... You know, they could have used to influence
100%.
So we've spoken about performances. Let's touch on the story quickly, and then I think we'll get to the ratings. Amari,
I have one more performance comment because I actually feel like John Boyega is, I'm gonna say, a very good actor when he's shouting.
Sorry, Amari, can I just ask you a question? Is it safe to say that you're saying John Boyega's best performance was during that BLM march where he in Hyde Park?
I've seen the video of that. I've seen Star Wars.
Is that?
I'm gonna give you clarity.
Listen, I just want some clarity.
Yeah, but I'm gonna give you clarity
because he was very shouty there. I mean, he had a megaphone.
He is actually a role model, and he's very good he's a great black man. What he seems to come across as a great black man. However, his best roles are when he shouts, because he did the BLM march, Hyde Park. Great.
That wasn't a performance, though.
Oh, trust me. To non-black people, it was a performance. So, you know.
What was he auditioning for there? What was he auditioning for?
Do you want me to tell you?
I said the BLM march was Fugazi.
I didn't say that. That's not my words. So we're clear.
Man went for a screen read. A table read. Man went for a table
I had 3 Star Wars films of him chasing around a white woman, screaming every minute, and he got paid consistently for it. So I respect it so much. Because if I want to scream after a white woman and not get imprisoned for screaming after a white woman and not a Karen come connect me, he's doing well. He's doing so well. And then when I see him in The Woman King, I'm like, all those times he was talking, it just seemed like, But the one time he opened his mouth, you see, I'm doing accent. The one time he opened his mouth, I was like, oh, I like this. I just realized because he was shouting. So in every role he has to do, he needs to make sure he shouts. Because when he shouts,
his best film is Attack the Block. Let's keep it.
But he's not shouting halfway through that film.
You lot are disrespecting now. Have you seen Detroit? Wait, have you seen Detroit?
Oh yeah, nah, he was.
Have you seen Detroit? He was levels. Amari, have you seen Detroit?
Big films. Carl, are you saying now we're disrespecting? So we weren't being disrespectful before. Now we're disrespecting.
Can you imagine? Imagine it.
I was like, no, I'm not having this. I'm drawing a line.
It's like, I don't give a fuck. You fuck around too much, you get to 7.
That's why I said when I saw his box start moving in the middle of what Mario was saying.
My goodness. What's your issue? No, that is you're disrespecting him.
I'm not saying he's a bad actor.
No, that is what you're saying.
All I'm saying that he peaks when he shouts. That's what I'm saying.
No. That's not the rhetoric that you just spewed.
No, but that's the rhetoric.
To me, what you just said is that he's only good when he's shouting. So that
is what I said, though. That is exactly what I said.
So he's bad when he's not shouting.
Sorry. I saw Orlando Bloom shout in a film once. I was like, "Why are you shouting?"
I can't just let you get away with that because Detroit, he was brilliant in that. Imperial Dreams, have you seen that as well?
I don't think I've seen Imperial Dreams.
Okay, you need to go.
Maybe I need to rewatch Detroit.
You need to rewatch Detroit. Yeah,
I'm not discrediting his ability or what he's done or who he is.
Nah, you were.
The best roles I've seen, the best scenes I've seen him in.
Did you watch him in Small Axe?
So the problem was that after your review of doing all the other things, when we got to Small Axe, I couldn't watch Small Axe, and that was your fault, not mine.
My fault?
Yeah, because you were slating it too much for me to actually want to
but that was the best episode in the series, in the franchise.
Sorry, who was slating it, me or you? You was you.
No. Okay. I think you need to go back, youtube.com/in-the-armchair and go and watch.
You were slating the other ones. And I was why am I going to watch this?
Either way, watch that one because that's probably his best performance that I've seen him.
Ever.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Was he shouting in that? If I find a scene where he was shouting,
he was not shouting.
So you could. I'm not saying he's not a bad actor. I'm just saying he's.
That's how. Okay. All I'm saying is that's how it came across. I didn't want to let you get away with that and think that your opinion represents the cast.
Hey, listen. I remember seeing in Pacific Rim, he was shouting.
Okay, I haven't actually seen number 2, so I can't comment on Pacific Rim.
No one should see number 2, to be fair, but he was shouting. So, All
right, so in terms of the storyline, Amari, how are you feeling about the storyline of The Woman King?
I thought the storyline was very good, apart from the Portuguese Donnies that I didn't need. Because I don't know why they was there. Like man decided to turn into a freedom fighter after his mum, who I think passed away before he got there, told him to go see where she was from.
I'll tell you one thing, just to jump off you mentioning the Portuguese guys. So obviously the one who's mixed race, it did make me, I won't say laugh, but I did think it was a bit interesting how he showed that confliction. Now obviously he's half black, he's half white, when he had the scene with Nawi and he's explaining that, and it did make me think a lot of mixed race people, this is how it would have been for them. Like the confliction of, you know, because back then it really was black versus white. Whites were taking over the world with slavery and enforcing it as much as the blacks were as well. But then a lot of the blacks obviously didn't want to be enslaved. So it was an interesting insight. I think they could have done more with his character, because I think his character, especially in society today, there were a lot of conversations and maybe character development they could have had and woven him into the storyline a bit more as well. I think as we mentioned on the performances, I feel they kind of just, it was a bit like character placement. Yeah, we'll put a couple enslavers in there. One of them is mixed race, is a bit conflicted, has a little meeting with one of the homies, and that's it. So I feel they could have explored that more. But yeah, as you were saying, the storyline.
To be honest, what spun me is that he wasn't a clean shaven fade or just one haircut mixed race Donny. That's what spun me the most, because you're telling me that you're part of their society in terms of white society, and you had your hair like that. Come on, like do better. You really think he's gonna have that haircut? I can't see it. I can't, because he wants to fit into the society that he's in. You think his hair's gonna be, who's gonna do his hair? He's gonna get the slaves to do his hair.
But we didn't really see. He might have come
No. But I'm just saying. What we're trying to say is that the slaves are gonna do his hair, and then he's gonna chill with the slaves for a bit. They go back to say, "Hey, yes, Pedro, how you doing? Let's go get some more slaves today. Let's go on the journey. We're going to Africa." Yes.
Yeah, but that was the point, isn't it? That's the point. That's the whole point of the being conflicted, is that the Dahomey people were selling slaves, so they were cool with the slavers. So that's precisely the point, Amari.
No, I was talking about him specifically, not the rest of the storyline. Just him. That's his storyline. His storyline confused me. The rest of it made sense, but him.
Yeah, I definitely didn't like his story from, as I said, from a love interest perspective. I just thought that was just pointless. Added nothing to the film. Definitely.
Yeah, it didn't add nothing to the film. But can you make a slave trade movie without including some sort of slave trader? Let's be clear on that. Portuguese, English, Spanish, they were literally the Man Cities and the PSGs of the slave trade world. So let's did you see what I did there as well? Those woke people will understand what I just said there. But anyway, we're not going to go into that. Well, they were the big boys. Listen, that was what the slave. They were the pioneers of the slave trade. So you kind of had to, even though, like I said, it was more Malik, I think his name was. He was more of a kind of a love interest, and it was almost. I felt like, so he was kind of there to kind of test her, because she was kind of wavering a little bit. But obviously, for her to be one of the warriors, they took that oath, all the rest of it, and she kind of represented this new age of actually kind of I'm gonna question it. Why has it always been this way? Even though ultimately she stuck with tradition. I found it quite funny that scene right at the end where she kind of turned and looked at him. And they kind of exchanged that glance, and then she just turned and just carried on walking. I thought that was quite hilarious. But I just thought, as much as he was annoying, him and was it Santo, is whatever his friend's name was, they kind of had to be in there, just not lose the love interest. And it was predictable that he was half. His mum was from there.
Could you imagine him being pure white and then him falling, and then her falling?
Well, actually, on that subject,
no, because then that movie would have been Pocahontas.
We've seen Pocahontas. It's called Avatar.
Totally different film.
Let's not move. Let's carry on. Let's carry on with the day.
Well, I mean, the only thing I'll say about the storyline, because again, we're making a lot of points here with specific characters or performances in the film, and I think, like I said, it all added up to, for me, a conclusion of it was weak sauce. I thought it was very run of the mill. There were areas that they could have gone into and roads they could have gone down that I think would have given this more of an impact. And I thought this was going to be one of those films that I was left kind of in the feels, and I felt an impact, and I felt the storyline, I felt the message of what ultimately Gina Prince Byfield was trying to portray. The slavers thing, I thought we might have gone down a sort of rape or like a pillaging kind of route, which I felt would have been a bit more believable. Double crossing with the slavers a bit more. It was just very weak. And then I think Carl mentioned it, or was it Amari that mentioned it, or even I can't remember who said it, but the film was kind of billed the woman king. But we only get that in the last 10 minutes of the film. And, up until that point, I actually was thinking to myself, so when is she going to get, when am I going to see her coronation? When's she going to ascend? Is Boyega going to get taken out? Is she somehow going to be next to it kind of didn't really fit that kind of thing. And then where you just given a quick 10 minutes at the end, a little speech from Boyega, a gift of the sword, now you're on the throne. And I think ultimately the storyline was a good start, but I don't think enough was built on it to make it as impactful as this film should have been.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what you said. I think the key word you said was very generic, run of the mill. When you look at the storyline at its most basic, again, it's that young rookie cadet who goes through training. She becomes almost like the master, and then they go out and battle the slavers. It's as simple as that. That was my
Pokemon.
That was my biggest disappointment. Now I thought it was going to be more than that.
Wait, Kyle.
Yeah.
Are you saying this is Star Wars, the original, the our younger years? You know, when it's like, hey, Anakin Skywalker has now joined the Jedi Force to fight the Empire. Is this what you're trying to tell me?
I agree with what he's saying, though. I agree with what he's saying.
Hey, John Boyega, you're still involved. Listen, you're here. Storylines. Agendas will run.
Yeah, so I think for it to be taken to that next level, where it failed slightly for me is action. There were definitely some good action scenes, but then there were some that I thought, this could have been shot a bit better. So if the action scenes were of a certain level, then I would say I would have given it a slightly higher rating. But yeah, generic is the key term.
I think as well, me personally, these kind of films with these kind of undertones, they work better. And I think I just said it, I need impact. So even if I felt those fight scenes a bit more, and again, I know, me and Giles, we've had this conversation throughout the years where we've just randomly at times spoken about Braveheart and laughed. And I remember one of the things you said to me years ago before I'd even seen it. You remember you saying the best way to describe Braveheart is grim. The fight scenes in that film were grim. Why? Because they were violent. Because you saw gore. You felt the swords going through people. You felt the slashing. You felt the throat cutting. And as much as that is a very carnal way to look at things, we're going back to the 18th century, talking about almost like civil war, fighting slavers. That is how I would expect the battle scenes to be, the fighting to see, visceral. I'm seeing body parts getting slashed in, but that is going to have the impact, which is, I felt, would have made me feel the emotion of this film. I didn't feel any emotion from the way that this kind of panned out.
Yeah, it's funny you should bring up Braveheart, because I did, when from the opening scene, and I won't touch too much on it because I was going to say it in my wrap up, but I think it's down to do with the rating of the film. Braveheart it's an R rating or 18 rating, so you've got that scope to be as graphic. You can have that dismemberment. Just touching on the fight scenes. I mean, there was action. I thought the choreography was on point, and it was really good to see Viola Davis in this really physical role, you know. But it's a 15. So there's only so far you can, you know. There was a lot of the fight scenes where I was like, did they, are they play fighting, or have they actually killed someone? You know, obviously there was little cutaways, and there was the odd, you know, stabbing that you saw, or chopping, or whatever, but it wasn't always clear. And that's just me going by your comparison to Braveheart. It was clear, yeah, that person's dead. Whereas in this, it wasn't always crystal clear.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, what I did find interesting is that, yeah, for some reason in England it was rated a 15, but in America it's PG-13. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. Why? Because I assume that would be a 12A in England, the PG-13. So again, it's half measures. I would say you wanted to do this big battle scenes, but then you didn't go all the way. That was a big issue for me.
Yeah, because okay, so you know, my 14-year-old daughter went to watch this, and I was like, oh no, you can't watch it. It's for 15. But having watched it, she can watch it. Obviously, I'm not going to tell her that until she is 15, but that's not the point. But yeah, it could have been a 12A. I think obviously there was an implied, there was a rape, but it was an implied rape in terms of, you know, other than that, I don't really see why it should have been a 15, if I'll be honest with you.
The only thing I'll say to that as well is I personally feel sometimes, you know, I'm not a filmmaker, but I am a critic and I'm someone who enjoys films. But I feel that when we substitute a rating, I feel that you're going for mass appeal, and mass appeal most of the time means obviously revenue. And I just wish maybe more filmmakers would, and this is purely my opinion, I'm not cussing their taste, their art, their dedication to the craft, but I wish that more filmmakers would maybe not think about mass appeal and focus more on the feeling, on the art, on maybe the take of the movie they're trying to make, and maybe think more about the realism, or invoking certain emotions from what they're actually directing and putting together. Because I do believe, and I'll touch on this in my wrap up, I do believe The Woman King had all the kind of ingredients to be a contender for best film of the year, but it completely, very quickly, you knew you weren't going in that direction, and this was going to be, when we put together the list of greatest or best slave orientated films of all time, I don't really think this is going to be near the middle. I think you're talking the bottom quarter, in my opinion.
Yeah, so this film, you lot was talking about ratings, and what I feel like you lot have missed the trick of is that every film is now a Marvel film in terms of the lack of violence that takes place in a film, so they can get it past the board so it can be shown. The only time films are not a Marvel film is when it has no choice not to be a Marvel film. Because I will tell you for free, if they could make that Halloween film that's coming out be a 15 or a 12A, they would. And it's and I haven't watched the rating, but I'm assuming it's going to be an 18 because they have no choice because of what the franchise is. But in
Don't be surprised if it's a 15.
Well, to be fair, see, they try to do Blade as a 12A or whatever, and that's under disrepute right now. So you know what I'm trying to say to you. There's some things you just can't play with. You shouldn't play with some things. They wanted to make this film, as you said, mass appeal. Doing that means the blood divide. Because somebody else said, "Oh, I would like there to be more blood and glory." And the only reason there's not more blood and glory in it is because it's a 15 or 12A and not an 18. And that's it. And ironically, with other films, there will be the same kind of blood and glory, and it will be a 15 or it will be a 12A. But it won't be an issue what it is. It's just because of the way the film is said, "Oh, let's everybody watch it. Let's make people watch it for different reasons." I told you there's an agenda why we can watch a film about slavery where slavery is not an issue in the film. But it is what it is.
Okay, this has been an interesting one. I've got no idea which way this is going to go. Kyle, you can kick things off. What was your rating for The Woman King?
Yeah, so I thought The Woman King, as I said, I thought it had a generic storyline, but it did keep me entertained throughout the majority of the film. I thought the performances were great throughout. There was no one that disappointed me or let me down. Again, this is purely a film-based rating because I don't want to get into the controversy. So taking that aside, as I said, I was entertained, and it is something I would probably watch again. So I gave it 3 stars on that basis.
Cool. Amari, what was your rating of The Woman King?
I gave it 4. No, I lied. I gave it 3. I remember that I took off a star because of the accents alone, and Lynch's accent like that. Just because I'm consistent. When I don't like something has to suffer for it. And if I think that's something, he gets a little bit extra. Actually, no, I lied. I gave it a 3 also because of my girl is 30, acting 14. Sorry, we're no longer in the age where we need to be watching. There is child actors, You can use child actors in films. They can do these films. Okay? We're not doing this anymore. We shouldn't be doing this. We're not going to give this film an extra. We're not going to give the film. If you said a standalone film, you could get a 4-star. But that reason alone, you lose a star. The actors make sure it's valid, in my opinion. You're a 3-star film. You can give it a 4-star if you take away Lashana's accent, but you can't because she's in the film a lot. So what do you want me to do? That's it. I don't have any more additional things to say about the film. I liked it. Will I watch it again? Maybe. Yeah, I probably will. I did want to watch it again before we reviewed, but you know how these films in cinemas and timings don't always work. But thinking about that accent has really upset me. I can't lie. And my girl's 30 years old. 30. She could be my age mate, and you're telling me she's 14 running around with a shark tooth in her back. We didn't even get to that shark tooth in her back business. But you're telling me.
She didn't look 30 to me anyway, but that's what I'll say.
But that's the whole problem. There's a problem in this world. Problem. And you're telling me.
I gave this 3 stars as well. I'll be very honest, it nearly got a 2. The only thing that kept it moving for me was the cinematography of the film. I thought the way that it was shot, where it was shot, the scenes of like the palace and the planes, some of where the battles were, I felt very believable. I didn't like the kind of slave kind of port area. I felt a bit generic, but I did feel like I was there. I touched on the performances. I think Viola Davis she's a saint to behold, man. I just, at this point again, I'm starting to really appreciate actors and actresses who we've watched, that, a lot of their films and their body of work has remained in that upper echelon and showing range as well. So that was cool. Another major issue I had was, I don't know how you guys felt, but I felt, going back to my comment of this is a Channel 5 film filmed with Hollywood level cameras, was there was a lot of jump cuts. I felt for the first 45 to maybe an hour, it was like 1 minute we're walking through, or we're arriving at the palace. The next minute we're doing something else. The next minute 2 characters are interacting. I didn't like that. I felt that it cheapened the film for me. They took out the cohesion of the journey and of the story unfolding. But overall, the action, I think, as well made up for it. I always love a good fight scene, and especially those kind of fight scenes set in that time. I just always watch them and think, I am so fucking happy I wasn't born anywhere near that time, because, yeah, that is long. That's a madness, having the battle. And I always wonder what happens to the corpses. Throw a couple vultures in there just to let us know that they're getting the neeping up. But yeah, it was run of the mill. I think I said that earlier on. Quite generic run of the mill. However, it was entertaining. There was enough performance-wise and storyline-wise to keep me watching. And above everything, this is something touching on a subject that I think is very important to black people as a whole. So you always have to give it time. That's not to say you give it a blight, but take it in, see what the story they're telling is, then go and do your research and obviously find out what you find out, but do try to appreciate these kind of stories being told, because I feel like we need more of them in society anyway. Giles, what was your rating?
Yeah, 3 stars from me as well. I feel like it missed a few tricks, considering what it was trying to do. It never really quite got there. You know, I was going to touch on the jump cuts as well. I mean, at times I felt like I was watching a Fast and Furious movie that's set all over the world, because it just kept on just jumping all over the place, and the scenes were kind of never long enough for any of the emotion to be conveyed. A slow and silly. Then I don't know what's the opposite of a Fast and Furious, but yeah, it just, you know, for the seriousness of the film or what it was trying to be, I don't think it was that serious. You know, there were some standout performances from Viola. And I think, to be fair, I feel like all of the women were really good in it. There's nothing wrong, you know, and I think maybe there should be more films where we're showing black women that are empowered, you know, because ultimately, irrespective of the, okay, slave trade, whatever, you know, it was pretty much a female dominant cast, and let's be honest, they did their thing. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, 3 stars. To sum it up, I think it was better than I expected, but not as good as I hoped.
So that gives The Woman King a TMRG star rating of 3 stars. And that concludes episode 19 of Those Movie Review Guys. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We're on all major streaming platforms. You can find us under Those Movie Review Guys, and get in touch with us across all social media as well at TMRG Podcast. Those Movie Review Guys. We out.